morning, good afternoon, and for some of you, good night as well. Thank you for joining us today. Here, I'm Hamisha. A little bit about myself. I will be co-facilitating this session with my Global Shapers peers, Dilbar and Sriram. I am an educator. I work primarily in curriculum and classroom instructions, focusing on foundation literacy and numeracy. I am also interested in inclusive and sustainability in classroom, and I am very, very glad to facilitate this session where I get to learn and be part of the community as a whole. So let's dive in. Let me just share my screen. Give me a second to do that. We are the Global Shapers community from Pondicherry Hub, and it's an initiative for people who don't know from the World Economic Forum. It's where we connect young leaders and reach their full potential to drive positive change in the communities in the world. We are a network of about 18 to 30-year-old people volunteering to address local, regional, and global challenges. With more than 14,000 volunteers, we span across 450 cities, based in countries. And, our hub, the Puducherry hub, works towards upskilling young generation and building inclusive communities. And our flagship program is the Movers program. So Movers program is a regional movement of volunteers who develop awareness on SDGs, on entrepreneurial mindship. And that is one of our flagship programs where, as I had mentioned in the previous slide, we work towards upskilling youths and going to the grassroots levels to train them on entrepreneurial skills and etc. And it's a collaborative venture with United Nations Development Program, UNDP, City Foundation, and Youth Co-Lab. The Movers program uses a training of trainer approach. So we work with the community partners to target harder to reach groups. So usually this session happens in person. So there's a lot of engagement, and I would have loved it to be an in-person workshop as well, but I'm glad to do it online. And also welcome to the session, which is Beyond the Buzzwords, Demystifying the Green Job Landscape. I'm happy to announce that we are doing this in collaboration with our sister hub, Global Shapers Community, Lilongwe. Thank you for joining us from there. Whoever has joined us, our fellow peers of Global Shapers. And let's move on to the session. So let's just take a minute to compose ourselves and take a deep breath as we are going into the session. We'll be hearing a lot of, words like green jobs, green careers, green entrepreneurship. And at any point you feel overwhelmed or if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat extensively. And let's set intentions before we move into the session where we will work as a group. And since I said it's more the session works more on an face-to-face basis, and since it's online, I would love for you to use the chat and tell me how you're feeling when you feel overwhelmed, or tell me what do you think about this session. If you have any questions, feel free to post it on the chat, and keep the chat box buzzing is what I would want from you as a facilitator. So moving on, so this session is based on Movers Climate program. It's a joint pathway of Movers and YECAP for youth climate advocates willing to enhance their climate advocacy by taking like 3-level action, right? Your personal action, what would you do? Collective action, what would you do with your peers, your like-minded people around? And systematic change that you want to take forward. Are you going to take a policy level change? Are you going to do like a research, etc.? And Movers for Climate volunteers mobilize the community to take them through workshops, challenges, meetups, online campaigns, etc. I'm happy to be part of Movers and Global Shapers Pondicherry. So I want you all to get the chat box buzzing by telling me how you're feeling right now. All feelings are valid. I know we are joining from different parts of the world. So please get to the chat box and type how you're feeling. Thank you for sharing. This is an amazing moment. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think, hi, Aparna. I will wait for a few more responses. I know there are a lot of attendees for this session. This will also would help me get a temp check on where we are with respect to how we are feeling. So I think it's kind of important to do this before we start the session. Thank you, Aparna, for sharing. Aparna feels phenomenal. Thank you. Two more responses and I will move on to the next slide. I urge you all to use the chat simply asking because we have a lot of questions for you and that requires you to use the chat. So let's just get started on this right away. As I had mentioned before, any feeling is valid. It's okay to feel tired, overwhelmed, sleepy. Okay. Okay, let's come back to this in a little bit more time. And thank you all for whoever shared. So I will jump into the objectives of the workshop. So first we will explore the concept of green jobs together, and then we build capacity and knowledge for green jobs and towards climate action. And we increase awareness about three pathways to pursue the green jobs. So about these three pathways, we dive a little bit deeper into these sections as we go into our session. These are our major objectives and also connect with like-minded people. That's why we're all here today in this space right now. And I feel it's engaged. Thank you so much, and that is the objective of the day. Again, I want you to use the chat box to tell me what you want to take away from the workshop, right? Like at the end of the workshop, I'll be what you be the workshops. I'll go back to the objective slides so that you get more help your thoughts flow in alignment with our session on where you want to be right now. So at the end of the workshop, I will be happy if please use the chat box to type in your responses. I can share. See, at the end of the workshop, I would be happy if at least 5% of the audience went away with an action plan on what they want to do with respect to green jobs. So that will be my answer. Feel free to type in your answer. What will be your takeaway from the workshop? Kindly use the chat box. Thank you, Jilba, for sharing. So, Jilba will be happy if everybody understands about the scope of green job. Great. Yes, thank you, Aparna, to know the options in green jobs. Right, that's why we are here. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, okay, so we are going to be hearing this word a lot, right? Like, what is a green job? So, can you type in the chat what do you think is a green job, and can you share examples of a green job, so that it can help me understand where we are and where do I start with respect to this workshop. So, again, this would be a great interactive session if we use the option available Jira chat box to engage as much as possible. And please type in what you think is a green job and please share examples of a green job in the chat box that you can see. Thank you for sharing. At the end of the workshop, I'll be glad if youth challenges in terms of job available are addressed by finding possible solutions that can help eradicate the challenge. Beautiful. It's a greatly articulated answer, and thank you for sharing. I think that's up here from Lilongwe Hub. So, what is a green job? What do you think is a green job? As I've said the intentions before, this is a safe space. Any answer is right. There's no wrong answer. Feel free to just jump and type your responses. I will wait few more seconds. And I urge you all to use the chat box. So please type in your responses. What do you think is a green job? Can you share some examples of green job from your understanding? Yes, Gilbert has shared something to preserve the environment. Correct? Okay. Thank you for sharing, Gilbert. I understand more attendees are joining us right now. So, to give you a little context, we're talking about what a green job is according to you, and if you can share some examples in the chat box, that'd be great. Something in sustainable solution. Thank you for sharing. Correct. Something to do with sustainability. Yeah. Okay. I see new people typing in the chat box. It's making me feel great and excited. Thank you so much for sharing. In my understanding, green job is that kind of work that helps to sustain the environment. Example, focusing on sustainable agriculture. Beautiful. Yes. An example that you've given, sustainable agriculture is a great example and more of on field. Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. As I said, getting responses from few newer faces has got me excited. So let's deep dive into what green jobs are. Thank you for sharing. So green jobs, as you all know, it is a big work to contribute in preserving the environment, climate, and biodiversity. As I had mentioned before, there are three pathways towards green job, right? Joining the force. So there are three, just green careers, greening job, and green entrepreneurship. And I know they all sound at the end of a few slides, I can promise you you'll understand the difference between these. So green, let's go to green careers. Green careers is working in an organization where the work that you do addresses to the green issues, right? Like, for example, individuals working in the job of green employees. An example here given is admin assistant at World Wildlife Foundation or Fund. More can be of environmental scientist, solar installer, or an air quality manager or an engineer. These are an example of green careers. So green careers is when you're working in an org that addresses green issues. Then next we'll move on to greening jobs. Here, unlike green jobs, you'll work in a non-green organization or an environment. So it could be a CSR corporate, as given here, and a sustainable officer at Apple. So are you all here with me? Like, give me a thumbs up. Use the reactions tab to give me a thumbs up if you can. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing jobs that help in conserving environment. Yes. Give me you can type yes or no if you are with me on the difference between green careers and greening jobs. So green careers is when we work in an org that addresses green issues. Greening job is when we work in a non-green organization but addressing the green issues. Let me move on to green entrepreneurship. So green entrepreneurship is pretty self-explanatory, right? Like where you start a business that addresses green issues. An example is Patagonia, where 1% of their profit goes to climate change. And there's another one called Soul House, which is towards building sustainable buildings in urban areas. And there's another one called Printer Forest, where all plants trees for every tree that we cut down for printing papers. These are some of the examples of green entrepreneurship. So now, how do you get a green job? Like, where do you start? That's when, there are different examples given about these different career paths of people who have chosen to give as an outview of where do we start when it comes to green jobs. So first one, we have Mohammed Naufel, who is a movers partner. They had found carbon add-on, so whose main mission is to offer estimates of carbon contributions for customers and businesses to offset purchases. So they measure the carbon footprints generated from online purchases and use the funds generated to channel into renewable energy products. So when we buy online, especially after COVID, there's been a lot of online shopping, and online footprints usually generated starts from your shipping to your packing to your delivery, which involves a lot of carbon emission, and they work towards cutting that out. And they also have a learning platform where you can know more about climate change, sustainability, and green jobs. This is an example of green entrepreneurship from our movers partner themselves. And next one is Monoram Chow. They found something called Compost City, where they focus on environmental education through fun workshops in a way to connect to soil, waste management, and the food we eat. This is another great example of green entrepreneurship. I would like you to use the chat box to tell me if there's anyone who's a green entrepreneur or who knows someone who is within your circle, or if not, would you like to be a green entrepreneur? If you have that in mind, please use the chat box to tell us as well. Thank you for sharing. Yes, if you know someone who's a green entrepreneur, please use the chat box to tell yes. And if you want to be a green entrepreneur in the future, also feel free to say or type it in the chat box. Thank you, Aparna. Aparna knows a few people working on e-waste recycling. Great. I will wait for a couple more responses. It's okay, Felician. Okay, yeah, that counts, Gilbert. People who work on plastic recycling. So it's beautiful to see so many of us engaging, and would urge you all to type more on the chat box. Oh, yes, definitely, Felician. If they're making paper from banana pulp, which is another form of recycled paper, so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's move on to some examples of greening jobs, right? This is Maria Pelosis. They are an educator who work primarily in elementary education, where they focus on integrating climate and environmental modules in school curriculums. I can also talk about myself as an example here. As an educator, my students and I wanted to make our classroom plastic free. We did after multiple rounds of circles, understanding where our usage of plastic comes from, and we realized we use a lot of biscuits and snacks for our recess, and we wanted to cut down, so we'd bring homemade snacks, which cut down our plastic usage by a lot of percentage. And after which our class became a plastic free zone, and together as a class we did an awareness in the school to urge all the classroom, to encourage every classroom in the school to be a plastic free zone, which in turn will make the school environment about 80% green. So that's what we did, and that's one of an example of greening jobs. Next is Shah Khan, who's also a Movers Envoy. They are a research analyst, and they perform literature reviews on climate science. They find and synthesize the data for the government to make policy level changes, right? To address general audience, they also have different strategies on how to make our climate change awareness reach to the general audience as well. And if you are interested in making policy level changes, environmental researcher is an option. Like Sher Shah Khan is an example of that. And from here, we again use a chat box to tell if you know someone who's greening their job, or if you are someone who's greening your job. Do you have any other examples? Please use the chat box to reply. Planning to, yes, that's a great way to start. Thank you for sharing. You can work in any different field and still green your job by being sustainable. So if you're looking to be more green, or if you are someone who's working in a non-green job but making it green, please feel free to answer here in our chat box. One company in India works to recycle used plastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Venkateshan. That's amazing. There's a lot of waste usage from pads actually, and that's a great idea. Do you have any other examples of someone who's greening their jobs? It could be I don't use a lot of paper in the work that I do. We use just emails to communicate and reduce papers. We reuse papers in our org, or at least I reuse papers when I am trying to convey something. Those can be examples of greening your job. It can be very simple. We can start from that. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. We will move on to green careers. So Ong Sing, who is also Movers Envoy, they work as an agriculturist and scientific officer with Bangladesh Institute of Nuclear Agriculture. They work in a green org, as I mentioned, and they develop sustainable agriculture system in hill farming, right? And introducing sustainable technology among farmers. And they also incorporate local knowledge with modern technology to make it sustainable. And this is a great example of a green career. The next example would be Lamaya. Lamaya is a mover envoy. Lamaya is a Youth Climate Action Fellowship Coordinator. So Youth Climate Action Fellowship can also be a start if you're looking to venture into one of these three pathways that we are discussing, right? First, you start up as a climate action volunteer, and then you move towards one of these pathways. And this can be a great start if you're looking to jump into green jobs. And Lamaya works in building the future leaders who will work towards climate action. And again, I would urge you to use the chat box to say if you know anyone who are following a green career, or if you are interested in, taking up a green career as well. These are two examples, Song Sing and Lamaya. Please do use the chat box to share if you know someone. Recycle papers, but refill and one-time use pens. Thank you, Felician. And sorry if I'm not pronouncing your names right. I'm trying to. It can be anyone, right? Do you know anyone who's following a green career? Carbon credits, okay. Thank you, Aparna, for sharing. There are a lot of different pathways, right? We discussed about green jobs, green careers, and green entrepreneurship. Within these, there are a lot of subdivisions as to green finance, then, transferring. That's how when you're transferring of carbon credits come in. I would wait for 30, 40 more seconds for people to hear. Yes. So Kitish would want to follow a green career in the future, I'm assuming. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's go to a theory, right? For this, I would really want you all to read the chat box diligently and excessively. Case one is where Miss Lama started a company that makes and sells healthy cookies across the country. So she attends 5 movers for climate workshop, and her main takeaway is to transform her company so it contributes to climate action. So, what are all the actions that she can implement within her company? I want you all to think for a few minutes and then type in your responses. I'm going to repeat and concise the points again. Now, Maya works in a company or started a company that makes healthy cookies across the country. After attending a movers workshop, her main takeaway is to transform a company so it contributes to climate action. So, how does she make a company green or make it a little greener? So, what are the actions she could implement within her company? As I've mentioned, all answers are right. Please feel free to write your ideas on the chat about this. What could Lamaya do that could transform a company into contributing to climate action? Oh, yeah, we work with our fellow youth in tree plantation as well as we are planning to establish a farm. That's wonderful. That's a great way to start. Thank you for sharing. Here, what do you think Lamaya would do, or what are the steps she could implement to make her company green? I can start off by reducing plastics. They can go with wrappers as paper wrappers, or recycled paper wrappers. That could be one way to start. Sustainable cups, yes, they can sell them in sustainable cups, which can be recycled or reused. Great, right? She can use beeswax wrappers for her cookies and put them in a glass jar. Amazing. I like how people are coming up with different ideas. I urge everyone to also engage in the chat box. People who have not engaged before, safe space. So any answer is right, as I keep mentioning. You need to interact in our chat box as much as you can. Incentives, right? Another incentive is that if you bring back the glass jar and give it to the shopkeeper, we'll give a concession for the biscuits you're buying next time, right? In that way, they can recycle the glass jar as well next time. Or they can use traditional steel containers. Amazing. What other ways could she make her company green? I will still wait for a few more answers. If this was an in-person session, I would have done a tag along, tag someone who hasn't answered before, tag someone whose name starts with A. Just kidding. But go on, feel free to use the chat box. Right. Okay, understandable. You have network issues. Use raw ingredients from local vendors or producers. Great. In that way, the carbon emission can be reduced by a lot. Amazing answer. Support local economy and use natural raw materials. Thank you, Kitish. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but yeah, thanks for sharing. Couple more responses on how she could make her company green. So far, we saw about using glass jars, steel jars, using beeswax as wrappers, and then using natural raw materials or procuring raw materials from the local as well. Create job for the homemakers. Great. That's a great answer. Thank you. Thank you so much for engaging in this case study, and I hope you got an idea on what little ways you can make your job greener. Thank you for sharing. Here are many more green job pioneers in our community, and feel free to take a screenshot or a picture to research about the work they do. There are a lot of them which we have talked about. Some of them we've talked about before, and some of them we haven't. So please take a second, a couple more seconds to take a screenshot of this, take a picture, and research about them to know how they started or how they ventured into green jobs. I will leave this slide for like 30 more seconds. Okay, thank you. Right now, we saw what are green jobs, green careers, green entrepreneurship. We saw some examples. We also went through a case study to understand how we can make a job greener. Now we will move into right? Anything that you want to share? Which pathway fits you the most and why? And what would help you pursue this green job pathway, right? I've been talking a lot about these pathways and with relevant examples. So, what do you think is a pathway that fits you the most and why? What will help you pursue this green job pathway? Please do share your responses. I can repeat the pathways, which is green jobs, green careers, and green entrepreneurship. I will wait for a few more seconds for people to answer. Which pathway do you think will fit you the most? Okay. Let me rephrase the question a bit too. Like, you've heard about these three pathways. Which pathway excites you the most, or which pathway do you think that you can make sense in? Thank you, Aparna, for sharing. If more about different opportunities available, then you'll be able to understand which green job to choose from. Makes sense. Entrepreneurship exciting. Thank you for sharing. Green contour, but entrepreneurship is more exciting. Okay, thank you. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your answers. We will now move on to why green jobs are important. So the example here talks about the transportation industry in France taking action towards making their country a bit more greener, which banned short-haul domestic flights in favor of train travels. So towards that, what would we need is we need more people who can work in the train industry. And what about those who work in the airline companies? What are we going to do about them, right? These are the things that we keep in mind when thinking about green jobs. Other aspects of why they are important is mainly to address climate change by reducing the greenhouse gas emission and by promoting sustainable practices to foster economic growth. By that I mean by creating a new industry. Green job itself is a new industry and market opportunity that green jobs continue to expand so they can provide a stable source of employment. Other aspects of why green jobs are important can be to increase resource efficiency, right? The three R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle, and to protect biodiversity, which is the most important thing of all. And this is data that talks about necessary actions that we need to take to cut greenhouse gas emission. So by 2030, if we have done what is on the left, the data points is how many gigatons reduced per year. So if we increase the usage of solar energy, we would have reduced the emission of greenhouse gas by 1.1 gigatons. And by better recycling of raw materials, by reduce waste reduction and recycling, by reducing use of refrigeration gases, and also by going electric, right? There are a lot of electric vehicles coming up, electric scooters, electric cars, and increased use of public transport, which makes a great difference in what we do in the emission of greenhouse gases as well. And also by planting more trees and halting deforestation. These are all something that we keep hearing on a day-to-day basis, but they are very important when it comes to climate change and climate action. And also the last point, you can also shift to a more plant-based diet. Not necessarily it's your choice, but can reduce meat consumption and reduce food wastage to help cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Um, the need for green skills, right? Green jobs itself is a new industry. And towards employment and sustainability, we need more green skills. So we'll start with green restructuring, decarbonizing of polluting sectors and reskilling plants, right? By reducing road air transport in favor of rail transport or usage of, public transports, which reduce the carbon emission a lot when compared to, as we talked about in the previous slide, how France cut short haul flights. That is a great example of restructuring. Next skill would be to create new professions, right? Emergence of entirely new jobs, your training courses. How do we equip our future generation, our youths, into becoming more skilled to be able to get into the green market? So your solar energy technician, your carbon accountants, your air quality manager, even people who would, uh, repair our windmills, wind energy, etc. And greening of existing jobs. This is something that we can do in our everyday jobs as well. Traditional sectors adapting to new contexts and regulations, right? A car mechanic must know how to repair electric vehicles. Teacher adopting environmental curriculums that I've shared before, right? And incorporating SDGs in the classroom, making the change starts from within, and these small changes make a big difference when it comes to climate change. So these are different skill building that can be done, which is green restructuring, creation of new professions, and greening of existing jobs. Um, let's go into an example. I think this is the last time I would ask you to write in the chat. I hope so. But if more and more people use bicycle, how would it transfer different sectors in the economy and create new job opportunities? So I want you all to think about these different aspects, right? Daily commute, transportation, industry, maintenance and circular economy, logistics and delivery, tourism and travel, infrastructure and retail. So I need to connect the question. If more and more people use bicycle, how would it transform these sectors in the economy and create new job opportunities? Please think for a few seconds and start typing it in the chat box as well. So if more people use bicycle, how would that transform another sector in the economy? How would it transform daily commute, transportation, industry, production, etc.? Please use the chat box. Okay, thank you, Felician. Green delivery. Thank you, Aparna. It would reduce a lot of traffic, I feel, if we all started using bicycle. Please share your responses on how it will impact the other sectors, even if it's not mentioned here. If you have any other thought in your mind, transformation will be slow but good for a start. Less pollution and clean air. Amazing, right? It will be slow at first because it's going to be a huge change. Less pollution, which leads to less health issues. And it's all interconnected, right? Less pollution, less health issues. Thank you so much for sharing, Kitesh and Gilbert. Healthy lifestyle, yes, it'll directly have an impact on the health sector, correct? You're not just cycling to work to reduce climate change or greenhouse gas emission, but also to keep yourself healthy, by keeping the environment healthy, but by not polluting. Bicycling and, it's a type of physical exercise as well. So great answers. Anything else that you want to add here? Sure, Gilbert. That's a great start, right? We need to start using our bicycles again. Okay. Let's move on. So, on the topic of why green jobs are important, there are like 24 million job opportunities opening up in the economy. But the current demand matches the supply, right? But if you think in the long term, right, in 5 years, it is shown that the demand will outstrip supply. So there's an urgent need for the workforce to level their green skills and to be equipped enough to run the sector in about 5 years' time. So which is an important thing to know. And also 24 million job has opened up in the green economy, which is great. If you're looking for a start, you definitely know where to start looking up trends. Major trends in green economy is your demand for green talent will soon outpace supply. So hiring of green talent is accelerating faster than overall hiring, right? Like they want to make the company green, they want to make the environment green. So your hiring of green talent is more faster, right? If you have those skills, then overall hiring. The fastest growing green skill comes from both mainstream and emerging. Your mainstream is basically the ones you've shared on the chat, right? Your plastic recycling, your recycling of pads, your renewable energies, etc. And emerging will be your sustainable fashion, sustainable business strategies, etc. So your sustainable fashion, as you know, is from start to end to the delivery, everything is done or sourced from the local is an example of sustainable fashion. And the volume of workers moving into green job is too low, which means there's a lot of demand. We need to match the supply. So the next few slides will help you synthesize what you've learned or what you've seen so far into a actionable plan, which will in turn help you move towards green jobs or into a greening job, right? So this, I would like you to take a picture, take a screenshot, or I can give you 1 minute to write down these points. So this will be your green job career plan, right? Like what environmental, climate, or biodiversity issue do you care about? Where do you want to make the change? How could you address these issues through your day-to-day job, right? If you're working as a marketing assistant, how could you incorporate that in your day-to-day job? If you're working as an educator, how do you address these issues? So what is your dream green job? What will your work be about? You're not going to be sharing this in this chat box. This is for you to get started on the green job sector, right? So what do you need to land your dream? What do you need to land your dream green job? Right? So please note down or take a screenshot. This is just to help you synthesize your thoughts and ideas and put them into action plan. Right? When you leave a session, you should know your next steps. As a facilitator, that's something that I'm always emphasizing on. If you don't know where you want to be by the end of the session, which means the session was not as efficient as it should have been. So I urge you all to note down, if you can't take a picture, what environmental, climate, or biodiversity issue do you care about? That will be your first point. You can also simultaneously note down, if you have a notepad with you, how could you address these issues through your day-to-day job? What is or are your dream green jobs? What will your work be about? And what do you need to land your green jobs, right? What skills do you need? What trainings or what, workshops do you need to attend to land this dream green job that you are dreaming about? I will give you 30 more seconds. You can give a done if you're done with noting these questions down, or you have taken a picture in the chat box. Thank you, Gilbert. You can still use the questions to green job, right? You can be, as I mentioned, you can be a marketing assistant, you can be a social media manager, you can be a photographer. But how could you address these issues through your day-to-day job? You don't have to land your dream green job, but how does one use the resources that we have, or skills or knowledge that we have, into implementing them into a mindset shift of becoming greener? So if you can answer those first two questions for yourself, also be great. If you are done with noting down the question or taking a picture of this, please reply done so that I get um, going the slide. Okay. Thank you so much, and I hope you've written this question. Let's move on. So where to start, right? Like I've talked a lot about green jobs, green careers, and green entrepreneurship. Where to start is understanding your dream job and pathways, right? Or understanding your current job and how you can make it greener, and the different pathways that we talked about. Understand yourself, your values and goals. What towards what life action do I want to work? Towards changing which aspect of it do I want to work? What are your core values that you have for yourself and aligning them with the climate action SDGs that are there? And research and explore green jobs and refine your plan, right? Like you may ask me a lot of questions and I may not have all the answers, but definitely researching and exploring will help you get more ideas on these green jobs as your training needs, right? What do these green jobs require you to do, right? What do they want you to have these XYZ skills? You start with building these skills towards that. Enhance your personal branding and keep meeting people, right? Like I know one of my friends has gone fully sustainable that you see zero plastic in their house and they make their own soaps from soap nuts. They make their own from lemons they make their own dishwashing liquid. So like my friend's brand is being sustainable, right? They wear sustainable clothing, they use public transport as much as possible. That's how you build your personal brand and you keep meeting people who have similar interests. And you can facilitate a green job workshop just like I did, with the knowledge you have. And this is we're towards the final slide. So, what will be your immediate next step, right? You take your pen, take a notepad, write it for yourself. Right? What is one concrete action you can take right after this workshop that will bring you closer to your dream green job? Uh, Rephrasing it, it doesn't even have to be a dream green job. It can be greening your job as well. Put a deadline for yourself saying that by XYZ dates or months, I would change this habit of mine and make this more greener. So please write one concrete action that you can take right after this workshop in a notepad next to you. Um, and put a deadline for yourself. That's more important. If I don't, personally, if I don't put a deadline, that will just be there as another notes from another workshop. So please put a deadline for yourself. Give me a done once you're done. Thank you for the reactions, Elation. Yes. Thank you, Aparna. Thank you, Jilba. Thank you. Let's move on to the final part. So use the chat box one last time to tell me how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being I still don't know anything about green job and that's okay. 5 being I somewhat know about green jobs, will do my research and get started. 10 being I can create my own career path with the template shared. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now? And I think this is the last time I'll be asking you to use the chat box. So people have not engaged in the chat before. Feel free to type in where you are. 1 being I don't know anything about green jobs. 5 being I somewhat know about the green jobs. I will do my research. 10 being I can create my own career path with the template shared. And also type in your main takeaways from the session. How are you feeling? If you have any questions, I saw one question which I will answer in a bit. But other than that, anything from these slides that you want to answer? You're really liking the flow of getting closer to green job journey. Thank you, Aparna, for sharing. Yes. Small steps, right? On a 5, yes, that's a great place to be, right? Like, there's not a lot that we covered in the session. Any resource links that you can share for green jobs here? Definitely. This Movers resource is a place to start. Let me. Yes, Aparna, on it. Thank you for sharing, Felician, and thank you for engaging the session as well. While preparing for the session, I did a lot of research, and there's lots of resources available on the internet to know more about the jobs and what kind of jobs and skills you can, are available for you to build those skills and what kind of skills are needed for what kind of jobs. It was a huge, it was a eye-opening experience for me while preparing the session for you lot. Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Quickly put on the chat box. Thank you, Aparna. You can be at a 3, you can be at a 2. It's all right. 6, thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Nas. Okay, as you type in your responses on how you like the session and how you're feeling, let me also share our the most important thing. That is, you can contact us, Global Shapers, in the email ID given here. And this was again in partnership with our sister hub, Global Shapers Community, Lilongwe. Thank you so much for joining us and Movers program and YE Cap. This is me saying thank you from behalf of all Global Shapers from Puducherry. Thank you for engaging in the session, and I will currently address the question, right? And you can also refer to what Gilbert is sharing with respect to how you contact us. So, what are the green trends in tech sector? It's a very broad question, right? And thanks for asking that question. It might differ, and I think there are a lot of AIs and data to tell us where we are with respect to trends. But generally speaking, tech sector could work more on reducing their carbon emission with respect to the number of the computers, air conditioning, and finding sustainable or moving their offices to a sustainable building so that they can reduce the consumption of air conditioning through good ventilation systems, etc. So these can be, different points that they can do towards becoming greener. And I think tech sector being one of the large sectors that also contribute to carbon emission and greenhouse gas emission, I think we need to work more to understand how we can make these changes. And if you are in tech sector, please feel free to contact your CSR and have the conversation with them to how to make it greener. That will be great. And I know I didn't answer that question, Smithish, but I hope I just gave you a start as to where we have and what we can do. Thank you so much. This was a great presentation, but best we can work together for partnership. Noted, point well taken from our Lilongwe Hub. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat one last time. I've been asking you to use the chat since the beginning of the slide, so feel free to type in your responses, how you're feeling. And I once again thank you so much for joining us in this session. It was great facilitating it. Please reach out to us at pondicherryshapers@gmail.com. We have more mover session. We have movers climate action sessions that where you can start your green pathway, your pathway to green jobs as well. So look out for that space, our Global Shapers Puducherry and Global Shapers Lilongwe space to understand more about this. Aparna, are you trying to say something, Aparna? I'm unable to hear you.
No, I'm just waiting for other people to actually finish off, and then I just thought to give a quick note of thank you to you all.
Thank you, Aparna.
Yeah. Is there anybody who has some more questions for Hamisha, who took us through the green jobs really well? So I think Hamisha has already got a lot of questions today. And how do you feel, Hamisha, like all together? Like I think you've been inspiring this crowd for past an hour, and I have also been inspired with green jobs. And I had a very less idea on this green job, and I think you have given us a lot of hints on how to look it forward. So it's time to thank the Pondicherry Hub, Global Shapers Puducherry Hub, and Lilongwe, correct? If I'm not wrong.
Lilongwe.
Lilongwe and the Movers team for putting up this program together. It was such a insightful, and Hamisha, you took it really well. I hope a lot of people got to know more idea on what green jobs are about. A lot of people are unaware, and I think you have given them a hint of it. So yeah, thank you so much, Hamisha. Thank you, Gilbert, and thank you, Sriram. I think there was some technical error, but still, it went on really well. This past an hour was a really nice insightful session, Hamisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aparna. I had fun researching and understanding different pathways as well. And thank you so much for all those who engaged. And I understand it's late in the night. And thank you so much for having me here and our team, which is Global Shapers Puducherry and Global Shapers Ceylon as well. Thank you. Thank you, Aparna.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. And looking forward for other sessions as well.